Hello, friends. I'm Maggie Ostara. I'm a sovereignty mentor and a human design expert, among many other things. And I want to talk to you today about the total lunar eclipse that's happening on March 3rd. And in astrology, it's happening in Virgo. And in human design, it's happening in the gate 64. And there's a lot to unpack regarding this particular eclipse, and even more than that, just kind of the environment that we're in right now, because this is the second of two eclipses. Eclipses always go in pairs. So this is the second one. And so we've been in this kind of eclipse cauldron, which is what I called my last video. And I made it more comments about the two put together there. If you want to go watch that one, I'll make sure it's down below. And also we had the Great Conjunction that just happened with Saturn and Neptune being at the 0 point of Aries, 44 degrees, in the gate 25, the love of spirit. And so this is a kind of broader context in which this particular eclipse is happening. And so we're going to bring in a few of those features today. But there is a lot of auspicious energy, much opportunity for you that's being presented when you know what it is and you know how to use it. And that's what I'm here to help you know. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. A couple of comments about eclipses in general. Eclipses go in pairs. There's always a lunar eclipse and a solar eclipse. And also, eclipses are not simply a moment in time. I mean, in the 3D reality, they happen at a particular moment in time, yes. But their effect is felt for weeks and even up to 6 months later. So it's good to think about these as creating a kind of wave of energy that you can continue to work with over the next 6 months if this is particularly stimulating for you, particularly meaningful for you. And if you find that it's really something that's potent for you. And so I think what this one is offering us is particularly important and significant for us. So I would encourage you to at least consider really bringing this into your spiritual practice, into your journaling over the next few months, because I think it could give you tremendous benefit. Let's recall that the first eclipse was on February 17th, and that was a solar eclipse, and it happened on a new moon. So it was a new moon in Aquarius. So it was Aquarian energy. And it was in the gate 30 in the human design system, which is on the emotional solar plexus. So it's emotional energy. And in traditional human design, it's known as desire. And in quantum human design, is known as passion. And I did an in-depth video about that 10 days or so ago, and I can put that down below so that you can go and check it out if you want, because that's also, again, another, do we have any alignments that are not important now? I don't think so. So, but this Aquarian energy would set the, right at the beginning of the lunation, because it's the new moon. And so now here we are, we moved into Pisces, right? But the full moon is in Virgo. But we planted our seeds, right? What were your intentions that you set at that lunation? And let's remember, it was also the very beginning of the year of the fire horse. And so the year of the fire horse is going to continue with us all the way until next February. So it is, again, energy that you can continue to work with over the course of really this whole year. And in the video that I did called Ride the Fire Horse, I really encouraged you to be more bold, really like to speak your truth, to stand up for what you believe in situations that feels right to you, to stop giving away your power to outer forces and to other people, to start making yourself your own priority, to really take more command of your inner landscape. And what I mean by your inner landscape is your emotional body, right? Your mental processes, your energetic state, and your connection to spirit. These are the first four pillars of feminine sovereignty. And it's really being able to take more command of that inner landscape so that then you can be in command of your life. And in my body of work, the sovereignty work that I do, I make a distinction between command and control, because control is something that we do when the basis is fear and we don't want to feel fear. So then we can try to control or manipulate people or situations around us so that we can feel more secure. And we're largely taught to do this. And we do it to ourselves, we do it to each other, right? And but control tends to be very constricting, right? It tends to confine, whereas command is really the quality of someone who is a sovereign being, was sovereign of their inner landscape, sovereign of their domain, and then has the ability to direct their energy where they will, that it doesn't need to control anything outside of them. Right? It's the ability to really direct your energy and direct your attention and your focus. And that's what we're really developing all this time, because we tend to, when we are in that control state, we tend to focus on what we're afraid of, right? Rather than what we want. And what we want to be able to do is really focus on what it is that we are wanting to bring into form. And the first phase of your journey to sovereignty is this ability to recognize the ways that outer forces have conditioned and programmed you, and to dismantle them, right? To start to realize them and to dismantle them. And then from that place to develop more of a connection with your inner guidance, your inner knowing, so that you become your own authority. Right. And human design really shows us how to do this, because all of the ways that we're taught to make decisions, for example, or to engage with life in human design, they're all intuitive. None of them are logical or rational or reasonable, right? They don't live in that world. They really have to do with our connection with spirit. And so for us to do that, we generally really need to break patterns. We need to break ways that we have been operating both consciously and unconsciously. And I'm sure you're very aware of this. We've all been in this kind of cauldron of change for the last few years, and it's intensified so much in the last 6 months or so. So this is the phase that many of us are in, where we're recognizing the ways we've compromised and diminished ourselves, right? To try to fit in, to try to be successful. And instead, reclaim our identity, our ability to define who we are, and to also continually upgrade it as necessary, right? Our own inner authority, our own self-referential quality, where we're going to tap into our divine self for response, for our direction, right? And then our ability to self-direct. So I created a fun quiz, as some of you have already taken it. And it's especially for women at midlife who are really in this waking up and reclaiming process. But really, anybody can take it if you want to, if you're drawn to these themes, right? And it is about being able to identify where you are on that trajectory of your journey of awakening. And so when you know where you are, you get to find what your archetype is. It's called What's Your Midlife Awakening Archetype? Then you'll be able to situate yourself on that trajectory, and you'll be able to know, okay, these are my growth edges, what you get with your results, and also what your best steps are. In addition to that, in the email that comes after you get your results, you'll also gain a PDF. It's a beautiful PDF that I created called Sacred Spark, a guide for reclaiming yourself at midlife. And that has a really great section on about what's really happening for women in midlife, not what we've been taught, and the potential that we have when we really step into our own power, the power within, not the power over, right? But really power within, so that we can share power and rotate. And midlife is practically a time that is defined by this kind of transition, right? So it's a really nice match between where we are as individuals in our life trajectory, and also what's happening larger with all of us here on the planet. So I'll make sure to put the link for taking the quiz down in the description and the first comment, and then also at the end. And yeah, I really encourage you to take it. It's fun. People have been really enjoying it. And I think it's also quite informative as well. And there are so many alignments that are supporting you in this process, right? I mean, the eclipses are supporting you in this process. Pluto in Aquarius is supporting you in this process. Saturn and Neptune that are at 0 point of Aries, right, are supporting this. So there's a lot that's going on that is really here for you. And actually, Uranus is in the gate 8, which is the gate of contribution. And so Uranus can be breaking up the ways that you've agreed to, like, for example, with your work in the world, or ways you've maybe contributed to organizations or even your family that needs an awakening, a disruption, so you can change it. So just to say, really, the context that we're in right now is supporting your awakening. And no matter where you turn, you see it everywhere you go. So, like the eclipse that happened on February 17th, the one that's coming up on March 3rd is also right-brained energy. It's in the sensing circuit. Both of these gates are in the sensing circuit in the human design system. And the moon and the earth are going to be in that gate, okay? And it's known as the gate of confusion in traditional human design, or divine transference in quantum human design. So it has some really beautiful qualities for us to unpack. But before we go there, I want to talk about where the sun is. Let's remember that eclipses are really a dance between the sun and the earth and the moon. Like, where are they in relationship to each other? That's what eclipses are. So the sun is actually also very significant for us to look at while we're looking at an eclipse. The sun is in the gate 63. And the gate 63 is left brain energy. So we've got both of these, the beginning, the seed points of these two circuits are being lit up. So the right brain is sensing circuit, the left brain is the logic circuit or the pattern circuit. And so the sun is in the gate 63, which is the very beginning of that pattern circuit or logic circuit. And in traditional human design, it's known as doubt. And in quantum human design, it's known as curiosity. So let's unpack this because it's really actually quite empowering when we do. Okay, so this is a great opportunity for you to rewire your relationship to left brain energy, right? Anytime the sun is in a gate, it's again shining that light there really strong. And so it's an opportunity for you either to just experience it if it's not defined in your chart, like in my chart, it's not defined, or if it is defined in your chart, it's colored in, you get to shift your relationship to it. But we all have a relationship to this gate because we've all been heavily conditioned into left brain dominance. So we have an opportunity here to really change the way that we are experiencing our left brain energy. Because in quantum human design, this gate has been renamed curiosity. So you have the opportunity here to really meet your doubt, whether that's your self doubt. I know I've been doing a lot of excavating and releasing of self doubt this last year, or the way that you doubt other people. I don't know if I can trust that person. I kind of doubt that they're actually being transparent or they're actually telling the truth. Or if you have a tendency, a default to go into doubt, because some people do. I've done readings for people where they're like, it seems like everything in my life I run through doubt, and especially if you have this particular gate defined in your chart, and it's really debilitating, right? Doubt. And so because it separates you, it makes you feel like you need to protect, right? And so if we can shift that into curiosity, curiosity is a soul quality, right? And it opens us up, it opens possibility, it makes us start to be like, what is there? What could we explore, right? What could we learn about? What could we experiment with? But so curiosity is discouraged, really, by modern society in favor of conformity and consumerism. Let's unpack this just a little bit because I think it's helpful to realize, again, the context in which this happens. So, consumer culture fosters conformity by telling you what's wrong with you, right? You're not the right shape. You're not the right color. You're not the right size. Your hair color isn't the right, especially for women, but for men too, right? Your emotions are not okay, right? Your expression isn't okay. Oh, don't tell your truth. It's like all these things, right? It's like conforming. And it has power. Consumer culture has power because it tells you what's wrong with you. And when you believe it, you become susceptible to that consumer culture then offering a solution that you have to buy. And the underlying message is that you're deficient, as you are. You're not complete. You're not whole. You know, There's gaps in who you are. There's deficiencies in who you are. There's things that are wrong with you, right? It's a devastating message when you really kind of bring it up to the surface and take a look at it, especially when we realize we've been inundated with this from our earliest age, right? I mean, it's around us all the time. And for many of us, it's, at least aspects of it, it's so ubiquitous, right? It's so ever present that we don't even know it's happening. Right? We don't even know that it's happening. And so we want to be able to break free of this. Now, curiosity breaks this trance of conformity and consumerism. It opens that possibilities, like I said a second ago. And one of the ways it does that is it softens our need to know or to decide right away, right? Because that left brain dominance tends to get kind of like, I want to know, you got to prove it to me, right? And curiosity isn't like that at all. Curiosity is like, I don't know, let's explore, let's entertain possibilities. Actually, let me share with you. I learned this phrase from Caroline Casey many years ago. She's a visionary activist astrologer. And she said, believe nothing, entertain possibility, which I have really worked with ever since. I think it's really helpful for us so that we can break out of this desire to nail things down, right? And instead to be open and agnostic often about what it is that we're taking a look at. So one thing for you to do is to consider where and when you've been curious in your life, right? What were the circumstances? How did you feel in your body? How did your emotion feel? How was your mind working, right? And if you can kind of get in touch with this, right, it can help you to kind of break out of that conformity, break out of that dictate of consumer culture, and get more in touch with what's really true for you. Now, just know again that left brain really wants to pin things down. It wants to analyze. It wants to categorize. It wants to name. And it tends to focus on specifics. And anytime we do that, we start to collapse possibilities and even shut things down. So you want to watch out for that, which is really more of that doubt side. And instead, anytime you start to have doubt come up for yourself, just ask yourself, could I be curious? Okay, so let's talk about the moon and the earth in 64, which is over here on the right brain, right? So the 63 that we've been talking about is left brain. 64 is over here. And in traditional human design, it's called confusion. And in quantum human design, it's known as divine transference. It's interesting in traditional human design that it is called confusion. That's a name for the imagistic, more abstract, more expansive, more embodied, and experiential energy of that right brain, right? And because these inputs do not make sense to the left brain, they don't. The left brain doesn't really understand all of that and it can get confused when it looks at that, right? It's not well understood because that lens of the left brain, like I said, it wants to, it's focal, right? It's bring things in, whereas the right brain it's all like that. So they're not, they don't really look very good to each other when you look at them that way. And especially if you've been conditioned into that left brain dominance that tells you, and Western culture has done this to all of us, that we've been taught to ignore all that stuff. It's confusing. It doesn't really matter anyway. Whereas divine transference, right, in quantum human design recognizes that these incredible downloads that we come in through that right brain are messages from source energy. They're messages from the divine, right? And we are in a time when we're growing our sensing ability so that we can discern by what we feel rather than by what we think. Sensing comes through that right brain circuitry, comes through, crosses over, comes down the right side of the body and up through the central channel, and it goes right through the house. And it is heart energy. Sensing is not something that comes from logic and reason. Sensing is very much an embodied state, which is what the sensing circuit is all about. And the sensing circuit includes a gate called the love of the body or embodiment. As we continue to bring more light into our bodies and upgrade our DNA, which is what we're doing with all these codes of light that are coming in from the sun, right? As we continue to grow our spiritual awareness and raise our vibration, sensing and intuition are going to become primary ways of knowing. So in human design, there are three primary ways of knowing. There's sensing, which is right brain energy. There's logic, which is left brain energy. And then there's intuition, which is in the knowing circuit. And we are moving increasingly over into the sensing and the intuitive out of that left brain. We're not going to get rid of our left brain. We need our left brain for lots of things, but we do not need it to be dominant. It is kind of a taskmaster or kind of negative in a lot of ways, right? Jill Bolte Taylor, really sees like the left brain is kind of insecure and uncomfortable and is always trying to pin things down. Whereas on the right brain is way more connected to spirit. She's a neuroanatomist who had a stroke. She lost the use of her left brain, and so she's really become quite interesting in talking about left brain and right brain. She has a wonderful book called Whole Brain Living. So go check that out if you want. Really, that right brain energy of the 64, which is what's being highlighted in this eclipse, is it's just saying this is our opportunity to break out of old identities, the ones that were more logical, that were more doubting, that really wanted proof for everything. They wanted the studies, right? Into a place of more trust, more surrender, more connection to our own inner being, or what I like to call my divine self, right? Or the wise one within. This is the number one shift that we are making now, because in a world that is being more and more saturated by AI and saturated by conflicting versions of reality, conflicting versions of what's true, how do we know what's true? Well, our left brain isn't going to help us do that. It's our sensing ability, our intuition, our body wisdom that is going to help us do that. Where we start to just be able to come in to with direct our energy with our command, we direct our energy to something and we feel into it, and we're able to be like, not for me, or yeah, that feels good in my body. I'm drawn towards that. Now, of course, I just demonstrated that as a generator, but everybody has that ability. All human design authorities are intuitive. You just need to learn how to work with yours and really foster that. And if you've been following me for a while, I've been talking about this like ad infinitum. But here we are with this eclipse that is just really, really making this clear. So the question is, as this left brain energy of the 63 crosses over that right brain energy of the 64, casting it into shadow for a period of time, right? Uh, and then the shadow will move on, and then the light of the sun on the moon will appear again. What is our relationship to that light now? What is our relationship to our creativity and to our sensing? You can take a hold of this and work with it in your journal and really develop that capacity to feel your right brain energy, feel your embodied awareness, feel the sensing of truth from your own sacred heart. This is a wonderful project for you to be working on over the next 6 months, however long it feels potent for you. See what appears differently. Foster all of your different ways of knowing so that you can become more balanced. You can become more whole. You can know that more of you is active. And when you do that, you will also start to feel the presence of your guides, okay, your solar angel, the light beings from the highest realms that are also here to help you. It's well worth the effort. The alignments all over the chart are really potent. And it's easy to be in distress right now between things that are happening in the outer world, things that are happening to us personally in our own worlds. from the incredible, powerful energy that's coming in from the sun, which I know I feel is ringing ears. Sometimes I feel irritable because of it. There was a day last week where I felt like I wanted to jump out of my skin because of that, right? That the activations that are happening from the sun can make us a little tweaked. So it's important for us to be as kind to ourselves and as kind to each other while we're going through these major transformational periods. And to know that other people are doing the best that they can, even when they're really acting out. And not necessarily to condone what they're doing or agree with what they're doing, but to have compassion. It's good for us to become clear eyed and to tell our truths and to be able to face truths that are being shown to us, but to do it from this calm, centered place within or to come back here as fast as we can, right? And this eclipse is giving us basically our directions or instruction manual for how to do that. So I do hope that you will pay attention. And if you want a little more guidance from me and my team, you can go and get our quiz, What's Your Midlife Awakening Archetype? And then we'll also be connected. And I would love that. All right, my friend, many blessings. Much love. Bye for now.